Hey, friends. Welcome to the Call to Farms podcast. It's 2026. I'm your host, Tim Ing, the homesteading agent, joined by my lovely wife, Sophie.
Hey friends, this is Sophia with Sprinkle the Soil and the Homesteading Lender.
You know what? It's January. I can't believe it.
Woohoo, we made it!
We just started.
Happy New Year!
Not real New Year's, but if you do celebrate, January 1st. All right. If you're listening right now, there's a good chance you're tired. Tired of waiting, tired of debt, tired of feeling like you should be further along by now.
I know I feel that a little bit. We just finished our 2026 strategy planning. And by the way, if you want a copy of that, definitely let us know. We'll have the link below for you to get started. But what we ended up doing in the last episode was taking a look back at 2025, the things that went well, the things that didn't, the things that we want to continue to do and double down on, and the things that we need to, frankly, cut off. And so for 2026, going into this year, we want to make sure that we are at the end of our Shemitah year. So this is the Sabbath year for us. We started in March of 2025, and our new year will officially start in March 2026. But instead of waiting until then to plan, the planning starts now for us and
Yep.
actually has started for a while with all of the learnings from Shemitah year of this first time, which actually coincided with the very first year that we moved onto the land. So it all works out. And we got to move on the big things. But now, as we're coming into 2026, we want to start talking about how do we become more resilient?
Yep. And the Shemitah year is every 7 years you let the land rest.
That's right.
That makes perfect sense. So we definitely have a lot of things that we took away from it. We weren't as fully prepared because we were in the middle of a move.
And we want to kick off this episode because in the last several months, we've talked and started doing interviews again, which I've had so much fun doing. But we haven't really shared too much about what's going on in the farm, other than the fact that we've typically shut down our dairy around October to February. So we like to do like a 6 months on, 6 months off, because we go hard at it for 6 months. And actually, it turns out to be closer to 8 months. And just this past weekend, we invited our friends over and we talked in length as to how many chickens we want to order together, because we also butcher and harvest
That's
together.
right.
And if we didn't have other people that we were doing it with, I think that we probably wouldn't do as much as we are doing today.
Yeah. And that's why we always talk about community. When you're doing homesteading, sure, you can do it as a solo activity, but it's much more fun, much more rewarding, and much better for your pocketbook if you do it with friends and with the community.
And so this is a challenge for us finishing up the Shemitah year, going through everything that we have and exhausting everything for the last several years. And due to 2020, if you're familiar with our story, we were in California. Grocery stores had shut down. We grabbed our first 3 egg-laying hens for $300 each. And I say that because I want to give you hope that it's through those moments that made us realize that we needed to make a change. And now we are officially in 5 years of this journey from moving from our quarter acre in the Bay Area, where we already had a full-fledged food forest going, because we started farming and homesteading, what we didn't know it was called homesteading, in 2017, but really started digging into the soil in 2020. We started making moves, bringing animals in. And I think that's when we became homesteaders, was when I would count when we brought in our animals, which was March. Funnily, in March of 2020.
Yeah.
And so because of that, we actually still have some of our food reserves from back then. And we still have sardines. We still have some tuna. We still have some rice and beans from then that we have properly stored away. But because we didn't properly prepare for Shemitah year, because when we were doing the biblical calendar and the math behind it, which we will have a very special guest coming up very soon, where we will talk in actually guests, where we will talk in great length as to how we came up with this year being the Shemitah year. But we didn't figure that out until last February 2025, which really only gave us a couple of weeks for us to get prepped for this year, which was a good thing because we have been slowly but now quickly going through our reserves in our long term storage pantry.
Yeah, and I wanted to add that we're still learning. We're going on this homesteading journey, and there's always something new. So, observing Shemitah year, that was something that we didn't know about over a year ago. And it's something that when we come across something that we research it, we check it with the Bible, and we just felt convicted to just follow it. And that's just one example of what it's like to homestead for us and to be good stewards of the land.
I remember as a little girl, I do remember reading about every 7 years letting the land rest, but I thought that was back then in the olden days.
Yeah.
And we didn't have to honor that anymore because we lived in the city. But through this journey of 2020, we have really been looking into what the instructions were for us and looking at the whole Bible. It's been a very interesting journey and experience. And because we're now in agriculture and farming, we really do, the Bible it actually comes alive for us. And it's been very exciting. We don't have to do all these things. You don't have to do any of it, but we do it because it makes the Bible come alive for us and our family and is a blessing.
Yeah. And there is a fine line between trusting in God and preparing for emergencies, for the worst. And our definition of preparing for emergencies has evolved over time, just in the matter of a few years, in fact. And I can remember even coming into 2020, there were rushes to Costco and buying in bulk all the toilet paper and things like that. I look back, I'm like, oh my goodness, to fast forward, what are we going to store in our pantry? And I'm just thinking back on my military career and, oh, we're going to get some MREs, we're going to get some dehydrated foods. And in addition to learning how to can and freeze dry, it's just slowly evolved to a point where now we've opened up our eyes and we are going back to what my grandparents have been doing for years now of fermenting foods.
Yes. And we'll talk more about that. I don't want to jump right into it. But yeah, we wanted to kick off to let you know why we're doing what we're doing. And so the last episode was all about looking back on 2025. Today, we're going to be talking about what we're looking forward to, and not in a hype way like hoorah. It's going to be more of a grounded, practical, here's how we're actually preparing way. And we hope that this will encourage and inspire you as you think about how to approach your food, your finances, your family for 2026. As you were talking, I remember that in 2020, we helped our friends and clients buy an acre in, was it Modesto,
Yes,
California?
it was.
Yeah. And their family had an extended family out in Modesto in
Central
Central
California.
California, basically heavily farming out there. And our friends were straight in the Bay Area like us, but because of 2020, they started seeing the same things that we were seeing now, maybe not to the extreme as we were seeing it then. But one of the things that we last said to them was just be prepared for high inflation, the cost of food rising. And they took heed and they started farming that 1 acre for them and their family. And I remember during that time, I sounded like a crazy person, but I also knew about interest rates. I knew about the cost of food rising. And I remember thinking that even if I was wrong, I would rather prepare and learn the skills so that I can help insulate on a potential high inflation. And I didn't know how quickly it was going to happen, but I knew it was going to happen because whenever in the world have we been part of, we were both born and raised in America. So we didn't see it back from our great grandparents' time during the Great Depression or anything like that. But we heard stories, especially with our families being immigrants. And because of that, we've taken those stories and heeded them as warning And even if we were wrong, we were going to accept the fact that, and that's okay. At least we learned skills and acquired skills along the way. But if we were right, we were going to be as insulated as we could be for our family and for those in our community. And as we were just in Idaho earlier in June of 2025, we went to a grocery store and we saw a pound of grass fed, grass finished ground beef for nearly $20 a pound. And I remember thinking, oh my goodness, could this hit us one day? If you are seeing at the grocery stores, because we're definitely seeing it, and we don't even go to the grocery store that often, but the cost of food is at least $100. And that's not even including any protein in our grocery cart. And there are ways that we would like to share with you how we're approaching it. And we've learned so much this year using the Shemitah year as a huge exercise and an experiment for us. And let's just dive right in.
Let's go.
Okay. So this year's the Shemitah year. What that means is there's less production on our land, and we're doing a lot of observation. It actually also happened to land on the very first year that we moved here. December 2024 was when we started to move our things in. And then by February, so even though it snowed for an entire month of January, so we really didn't get much done. We got our animals in, which was great and fantastic, but that's about all we did. And we started organizing our food pantry. So thank goodness for that, because then by February of 2025, we realized that we were going to have to live basically off of everything that we already had prepped and stored, which thankfully we had our good friend Michelle come from Detroit, Michigan, to help us organize our efficient kitchen to our short-term storage and our long-term storage. Because then when March hit, we just quickly got as many vegetables into the ground as we could, and not necessarily cold hardy. We got the cold hardy ones, but what I also had to get in was the orchard, and we also had to get in the warm crops. And so that was our very first time starting to plant our tomato plants in February and March timeframe. Usually we wait until May, June to get those in. And so we learned a couple of things to extend the growing season. We put the clutches on it, so it almost acted as a greenhouse, because we didn't have time to get a greenhouse erected, and we still don't have a greenhouse because we actually partner with our local neighbor who does starts for everybody in the area, and we share our dairy grates with him. But we've learned a lot. We learned a lot about how much food we go through on a week by week basis.
It was definitely a good exercise. And we learned a lot through this process. We learned that there is a fine line between homesteading and preparing. They would say preppers, but we toe that line because it is good practice to save your food up. And food storage should not be fear-based whatsoever. It's just a responsible thing to do to help and prepare your family for emergencies. In our case, it was for the Shemitah year, but the food that we had stored up over time was for an emergency. And it's really interesting because we were just talking about it. We're like looking at the foods that we had, and this was something that we weren't used to before living in the city in terms of storing food in a pantry. This is a novel idea. It was always about, okay, what's earthquake food? I remember growing up in public school, and
we always
you
had
had
to, we always had to organize like a Ziploc bag at the
or a
beginning of
tote,
the year.
a
A
tote,
tote, yeah.
and it were like bottles of water, flashlights, and some inedible foods that you hope you would never have to eat. And that is exactly like it. We were laughing because we're looking back at some of the foods that we store. Like, when are we going to eat these kinds of foods? Because this is something that we would normally not eat as part of our diet. But when we purchased the foods back then, it was because they have longer shelf life, and we were going more on that. When instead we should have been planning on what foods do we actually like to eat and look forward to eat. And this has been a journey because part of Michelle's training with the Efficient Kitchen, it's like you're supposed to be rotating out the foods that you're storing. So if you're going to be rotating the food out, then it better be food that you like to eat, and that should be part of your diet. And don't feel intimidated. Don't think, okay, I have to have an underground storage that is super organized and card catalog like in a library, and you have all these foods stored up. Just start off small. Start off with just 2 weeks worth of food, depending on if it's just the two of you, if there are just a couple of kids, depending on the size of your household. How much food do you guys actually go through? And this is an exercise you need to go through.
Yeah, it's an exercise for us too because we
Mhm.
live in the sticks. So it's not easy for us to run out and grab something. We've actually had to change the way that we stock up and prepare for food. And it did start for us at 2 weeks because we try not to leave the house. And especially when we're preparing for winter time, like we are right now, we had been iced in and snowed in for about 2 weeks last year.
Yeah. And you're going to want to make these mental calculations, so to speak. Plan for the 2 weeks, start off with the 2 weeks, and then start building from there. And then, just as you would tear a scale, that becomes your new baseline of having at least 2 weeks worth of food. It's almost for me when I'm driving the car, I don't let it go below the halfway mark for the fuel. It makes me nervous, and I want to make sure that I fill it right back up to the top. That's the same concept here when you're preparing your foods.
Yeah, and I think this year we're actually tearing out our entire pantry. And that's because we didn't prepare ahead in advance. But it also is something I'm excited to do because it clears everything out, all the things that we panic bought in 2020. Because seriously, the grocery stores, Costco was insane. Everybody stocked up on everything. Store shelves were empty in 2020 for weeks, if not months at a time. And so we would take different shifts and say, you go to this Costco, you go to that Costco, you go to this Whole Foods, and you just buy all the canned stuff. And we've just recently finished all of the toilet paper that we got from 2020. And it's so interesting because you can see the shrinkflation that has happened over the last
Mhm.
few years, even because the original toilet paper that we bought from Costco before had more sheets in it than they have now. And not only does it cost more per package of toilet
Right.
paper, but now you're getting less toilet paper than you did before. And the toilet paper sheets are the same size.
Yeah, and there's only so much sardines and tuna, and there was like canned salmon that I thought was, ooh, that's nice. There's only so much of that you can actually physically eat. So why are we stocking up on this stuff? Or beef jerky? Can you really live off of it? Yes, I guess
Yeah, you
technically you
could.
could, but that's something that you really look forward to doing. Not that you have to, but we're just thinking about how do we do it smarter now? How can we start rotating through? And it's something that you have to be mindful about. And I talk about homestead security too. And this is related in terms of you have to do that math. We saved up and purchased a whole house generator, but we had to figure out and calculate how much propane do we need to have that running and how many different appliances and things are we really going to be using. So, how many days is that generator going to give us if the power goes out? And the same thing when you're planning on foods, but we're talking about building up your pantry and not having it just for emergency use, but also how can you make it part of a daily life, which I'm actually really excited about because I don't know about you. Typically, in most families, maybe one person is more gung ho about researching and picking out all the foods for emergency preparedness, whereas the other spouse, me, in our case,
I
I
didn't say it.
I didn't care. Go ahead, buy whatever you need to buy at, and we can just stock up and hopefully I'll never have to eat that stuff. But this is a whole new concept. If you are having to rotate this 2 week food prep or the foods that you're keeping and rotating it into your daily meals, now I want to have a say. And have a vested interest that if I'm going to have to eat it, then I definitely want to have a say as to what I like to eat and what we need to start stocking up on.
I didn't know then how to do it right. It was just a matter because it was a
Yeah.
panic mode and you just grabbed literally what was it, tuna and corn and some sort of tomato in one that like one of the clean I just made sure it was clean food, but
Yeah.
whatever was left. And at that point, I think whether you observe the Sabbath year or not, we encourage you to take a pause and take a look at everything that you currently have. We're at the point where we're draining everything so that we can start anew with the things that we actually want to eat and are excited to eat too. So it's not like a doom and gloom that we have to go through the way that we did in the Bay Area. We just weren't sure. We thought it was the end of the world, to be quite frank. And if you listen to my podcast episode with Joel Salatin, I think it might have been like episode 7, super early on. That was one of the questions. Like when we met him, we literally thought it was the end of the world. We weren't sure if we were going to be able to make it out to learn from him in 2020. And thankfully we did 3 times in 2020 and 2021. But we really thought it was the end of the world, not realizing that it was the end of our world, the world that we grew up in, the world that we knew, the world that we thought was safe, and that the food, the grocery stores were always going to be stocked up, and that there wasn't some sort of pandemic going on in the world that would take the entire everybody down. And so
Yeah.
it really shifted us. And now I think we're coming at it. We're a lot more mature. We're a lot more
Yes.
prepared. We're a lot more knowledgeable. We're a lot more skilled. And so we want to take a tactical approach moving forward.
And we're very mindful now of how much things cost, just like what you were just talking about. Things cost a lot more. So why would I want to spend our hard-earned money on things that we're not going to eat? And for homesteading, what are the things that we're going to be able to grow
And raise.
to save us that money? The foods, the meats. And then what do we have to buy? And then be more mindful about that. So just being very judicious as to, okay, these are the foods that our family likes to eat. So then let's stock up on that.
Yeah. It's been good. We really have tried to simplify it a lot. So turns out we don't like a lot of things, but it also makes it a lot easier, right? Down to protein. To your point, what animals do we want to raise? We
Yep.
started off with all of them, 100 ducks. We had 50 egg laying hens. We had eggs coming out of our ears. And then we had goats. We had Barbados goats. We had the Boer goats. I'm sorry, Barbados sheep, Boer goats. Then we had East Frisian sheep as well. And we have raised turkey. We've done the whole gamut. We've experimented and we've learned a lot over the last
Well,
few years.
yeah. And not only that, we've gone through so many different diets, and also in terms of foods that we eat that we don't consider diets, but the way that we look at foods and this
Nourishing food.
nourishing foods. Sure. That's correct. And even this past year alone, we went from carnivore diet to primal bod, and it's definitely shifted the way that we've eat.
We've always been more primal. Primal, whole food, whole 30. We've
Mediterranean.
Mediterranean.
Yeah.
Yeah, we obviously nourishing traditions has
Yeah.
ultimately always been at the core and foundation for us.
Mm.
We've always tried to kick it up a notch to see how we could better optimize for our health with
Yeah.
especially with more nutrient density. And so that has always been a fun challenge for us to like how can we optimize for our health and our nutrition, which then ultimately has led to our own farm here and growing and raising our own food. And then you get into mindset, so many different things to just optimize for our health, whether that be spiritual health, our physical health, emotional health, and a relationship health, and all of that. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's just how do we get the most for the very least amount of inputs that we need? So for us, is it raising more chickens where we have to do the slaughtering of at least 50 to 100 chickens to last us the year, or one whole of ours, maybe one and a half with what we, and a couple of sheep maybe 3 sheep, 1.5 cows, and 50 chickens. That'll last us, I think, comfortably for the year.
It's a combination of all. You don't have to just pick one. You don't have to
Right.
just stick with the beef. But by doing this math and actually living through this and being in community and asking our neighbors, asking people that we trust, what does it take to raise sheep? What does it take to raise cattle? Because it may not be in your cards to want to raise cattle. You might just want to raise chicken. And so I talk through this homestead journey with all of my clients. Not everybody wants 50 acres. Some people want 1 acre or a quarter acre, and that's fine because the definition of homesteading is different for everyone. It's just about living a more resilient life.
You say that, and I just had a thought of chicken is our least favorite thing to
It
raise.
is.
And I almost wonder if we could find someone in the community where we could share in ground beef, like maybe 3 pounds of ground beef for a chicken.
Yeah, that's a great idea because we're about to raise 100 meat birds, and
Right. We're
that's a
going.
tall order for just one short season. We want to do all 100 birds.
And not only that, so this last year, we started a regular game night, and we do at least 2 game nights a month. And so with that, we like to, it's our love, food is my love language, it's our love language. And so we have a lot of pride and joy in cooking nourishing food for a large group of people. And because of that, though, we do go through more of our food storage than we had planned for. But it's all a blessing that we are even able to have regular game nights with our friends who want to play competitively with us. So we're grateful for that. But in all of that, we've also talked about what we want to raise in the garden. We have to redo a lot of the garden beds this year before March because a lot of them have started to disintegrate. And so we're going to take some of the wood from our old property and use it for this property here. But the nice thing is we don't have to grow all the things that we
No,
had grown before, where it was just a huge priority for me to grow all of the vegetables and eat just probably a few things. Like we love peas, we love beans, we love tomatoes, cabbages. And then now layering on, we've been looking into oxalates too. So like oxalates are something that I hadn't really looked into, 2 years ago. I started looking into it with the work of Sally Norton. And so then because of that, it frees up a list of things in terms of what we want to grow. And we just need to grow a few things instead of a little bit of everything.
but I'm so glad that we did the 2026 planning. I'm really grateful that you really pushed me to, hey, make sure that we sit down and go through it because it really laid out all the things that are necessary to do by season. And I quickly realized there's a lot of things that we need to do during the winter time to prepare for the spring. A lot of garden prep work. So thinking ahead and thinking of all the foods that you want to have in your pantry and the foods that you want to grow, you need to work backwards and think about all the beds I need to start working on, the planter beds and fixing up the garden. And so the list goes on and on. But if you sit down and start making out these tasks and what's entailed, then that really does help you it helps me out certainly in terms of how I'm going to lay out how the year is going to look, how I'm going to budget for materials, where I need to spend hours or spend time preparing to put up new fence work. And so these are the things that you need to prepare in the beginning of the year so that you don't get caught and blindsided or regret later on at the end of the year why you didn't have the opportunity to grow whatever you wanted to grow. At the end of the day, it comes down to a family decision.
That's right. And I'm glad we talked about it because then it clears up a lot of the stuff we're dreading, but not really talking about what doesn't excite us. I think that's healthy to have. They're hard conversations. In fact, I'd say December was probably the hardest month in our marriage, to be
Mhm.
completely transparent. And it's just because you have to dig deep and you have to have the tough conversations. What's working, what's not working, What do we want to focus on? What do we want to cut? What do we want to accomplish for not just this year, but 5 years down the road and 10 years? And what do we want to leave behind for the children? And how do we want to show up in our community?
Yeah.
Um,
And that's a great point because we were actually approaching our 4-year mark being out here in Tennessee. And typically that, I don't want to say it, but like the 4 years is to typical homestead burnout rate. And it's very easy when you get into the homestead, this is a lifestyle, to just be reactive, almost like a firefighter or an emergency worker having to just deal with things like deal with the fires every day. And if you sit down with your partner, with your loved one, and go over what to plan out for the rest of the year, this way you both can be on the same page and not have to, and think of the overall larger picture instead of going day to day. And I admit I was one of those as well before, to just go day to day and then try to fix things as they come. Because believe me, when you get into homesteading, there are plenty of things to keep you busy. You can always be gainfully employed. You can always be busy every single day working on many projects, but you can't lose sight as to what the overall picture is and what you want to accomplish, your long-term goals for that year.
and not just the year, even in 20 years. What do we want to do when we're in our 60s? And how do we want to maintain things, right? What are some things that we need to dial in now so that when we're in our 60s, we've already gotten it laid out. We know exactly what to do
Mm,
each season. We know how to simplify things. We know maybe the 5 different vegetables that we want to really grow really well. And last year we put up a ton of cucumbers. So we've got a lot of pickles and relish that we're going to eat through probably for the next year and a half. So we don't need to really harvest and or grow and harvest cucumbers this year. We can focus on tomatoes because we're down on tomato sauce and didn't realize how much we use it for sourdough pizzas at home. It's a quick meal. We have ready to go sourdough pizzas in the freezer, so when we have a busy day, the kids can make their own food and it's just tomato sauce. We have some canned pineapple, but we also have frozen pineapple, which is really all what that they need. And then we have plenty of ground beef. So we just turn that into a beef sausage and there you go. And we have mozzarella cheese. So just so many things that we can make the mozzarella. We have access to the ground beef. Or if not, we have steak or leftover meat. We just need some more tomato sauce and we've got the sourdough pizza. We've got the sourdough starter and we have the wheat berries, but we're running low. So now we know. But I don't want to wait until year 7 right before to get
mm,
prepared for the next Sabbath year. I want to learn that now. There's so much that we're going to learn in this year and the next year so that we know exactly what we need. But ultimately, it's to prepare us for our old age too. Like we're not going to be able to go at the level that we're at right now. And I don't want to.
mhm.
I don't. And if I know that, then how do we scale that down now? And I think that's what has led us to the conversations of going hard 8 months out of the year and taking 4 months. Like this year, we're going to take 4 months off, but can we stretch it to 6 next year?
Yeah.
Things like that so that we don't burn out, to your point, but that we continue to love this lifestyle, that the children love this lifestyle, that they're going to want a little aspect of it. Like our children over the last month since it started getting cold outside, they've been in the
Mhm,
kitchen just baking like crazy. We've got
mm,
cookies, we've got sourdough bread, and we're gifting them to our friends and neighbors. We've got sourdough bread, we got cinnamon rolls. We were so spoiled. We had cinnamon raisin sourdough bread. We've got babkas. Like they're having so much fun. And sandwich loaves. Our eldest just made 3 loaves of sandwich bread
yeah.
in preparation for school starting up tomorrow.
And I'm having so much fun taste testing all of these things too. It's been wonderful. But to your point, though, that's absolutely right. And this is what I've laid out in my Fortify Your Farm book, where I go over the SAFE method. It's a process, okay? It's not something that you want to rush through. But to your point, on year 7, if you're going to observe the Shemitah year, or planning for when we retire, or not, I don't think we'll ever fully retire, but in terms of get to that age, we don't want to be running this hard. So you want to have systems built into place. We may not want to pull back on certain things, but if we have a system built out by that point, so we don't have to rush into it right now because of maybe finances or what have you. But if you have a system in place, then it's easy. Our philosophy has always been homesteading needs to work with our lifestyle, with our careers. And homesteading is going to have to just fit into that so that we can produce the foods that we want to produce, but it's not our full time gig. And that's the way that we've viewed things. And by building the systems, if we were to leave the farm for a day or two, would someone be able to come and pick up where we left off? Would someone be able to feed the animals? Would everything be very organized so that it's very simple, more of a plug and play? And that's how we've designed homesteading.
Right. And not even only that, right? That has led to the conversation of, do we even need egg laying hens? And that was like a big, oh, of course we need egg laying hens. That's what we started off with. We paid $300 for one of those things.
Hmm.
And now that we're in it, it's the way that we have it designed right now, or the previous owners had it designed. It's not as conducive for raising hens in the winter because we have to go down a set of stairs. It could get slippery, and it has gotten slippery. And the layout's kind of odd. You have to go downhill to pick up the eggs. Is there a way that we can redesign it? And so the plan is to take a break from egg laying hens, especially when they're not laying right now, and redesign the chicken coop. So actually, our little one has taken a huge initiative to
Hmm.
draw sketches out as to, because that's her chore, is to feed the chickens, collect the eggs, and she doesn't like it. So I said, okay, then how can we redesign the chicken coop so that it would be a lot easier for you?
Yeah. And she even used a miter saw today, too. So I taught her how to use one, and she was super excited to just do a little bit of work. And we used all the safety precautions. She had
Wow.
her safety eyewear and everything. So it
Yeah.
was done really well. And she was just so happy that we just got to cut some wood.
Yeah, she loves it. That's why when you said you were going to cut some wood, I was like, oh, you got to come down. And she was like, oh, can we build something? We try to incorporate it. And we definitely don't want the kids to resent us and their lifestyle, which is why we started this podcast to begin with, so that we could document all the things that's going on the farm. But all that to say, the question is, even, do we even need to have egg laying hens for the year? Do we want to take a break from it? Because that is probably the hardest animal, aside from the dairy animals, to take a break from our farm. If we wanted to take a week off, it's hard. We've got 25 hens and we have to collect the eggs. But if there's a way that we could design it where right now we don't need to grow our starts and we don't need to raise any bees. And the reason why is because we have a whole stash of honey behind Tim, and we have all of our starts done at our neighbors. And the reason why is because we are the only local ones in our community that are doing dairy the right way. People want to share with us and we want to share with them. But
Yeah.
that takes the load off of us having to man the beehives or having to have a greenhouse. And this is just added expenses that, we might not need to do, because if we were to do it, and if it was just seed starting, we'd do it probably smaller. But if we have somebody else that we could bless and they're blessing us, like
Mhm.
we want that so that we can focus on it. Because of that, I'm also thinking, is there somebody else? Everybody here has got chickens,
Oh,
and
yeah.
too many chickens and too many eggs. So it might just be like, maybe we take a break for the year and not raise any hens for a little bit so that we can take a little bit time during the summer. We can take a weekend off. And even if it's potentially, right, if we even want to go hiking in the Great Smoky Mountains, for example, we're about to have two teenagers in the house. And so
Yeah.
we want to enjoy that time with them. And I just feel like we can afford to do that now that we have the knowledge and the skills to.
But other homesteaders are going to say, if you're doing it the right way, you're never going to want to go on vacation.
It's not a vacation, it's a staycation. We're still around,
Yeah,
but we love seeing things. And I think that's part of us
we
being
do.
what our neighbors tease us, and our friends tease us, and they call us city slickers. So we live in the mountains on the side of a mountain, raise our own animals, but we still love visiting and we love seeing different things. That's
Yeah.
just, we learn so much. You learn so much when you are out there, you have new experiences, you go on hikes, and we love nature. And there's so much to do, even within Tennessee, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, we love. Florida, we haven't even gone to Destin yet. And that's something that we said we wanted to
Mhm.
do for a while. So
And it's all part of homeschooling too. All the experiences, bringing our children along. We really believe that in our interactions with other people, we want them to observe and learn. And this is all about homeschooling. And if you're getting into homesteading or you're already homesteading, don't feel the pressure to have to raise everything. You don't have to have all the chickens because everyone has chickens. So you have to have chickens. It means not everyone has to have a family cow. It's great. Obviously, we love cows, but you have to think about how much time it's going to take to tend to the chickens every day. They're pretty needy. They need protection. They need to be fed like twice a day. Same with the cow. Cow's going to have to get milked every day. So you start adding up all of these things, all of the hours, all the time spent, and think about if you also have another career as well, a full time career, how do you manage that? How do you also fit in family time? You have to factor all of these things when you get into homesteading. And that's why we consider ourselves more like modern homesteading. We came from the city and we appreciate all the benefits of homesteading. We embrace that. We are very involved with the community. But at the end of the day, don't feel pressure to, because of social media and watching what other people are doing, that you have to feel like you need to do it as well.
we jumped into it. We're the prime like
Mhm.
we jumped into it the second we bought our 6 acres in Lincoln, California. The first thing you did was we're like, we love duck. What are the things we want to raise? So we got 100 ducks.
Yeah.
And then you have to harvest them. And you're like, oh, that's a lot harder than just chickens.
And you learn.
You learn. So, like, we've gotten it to a point, I think this year is all about growth. And that's what we said
Mm. Theme.
our word and theme is for 2026. But growth also means optimization. We're at a stage of our lives, our career, our homesteading experience where we have learned a lot. We've experienced a lot. And in order for us to grow, you have to optimize. You have to trim, just like we were talking about how we were going through the book of Matthew and how we need to prune back some branches so that we can get a great harvest of fruit. So it's the same thing. You need to know, though, which branches to trim off. And that's exactly why we're here to tell you it's great that we went through the experience of jumping in, diving in, because we truly thought it was the end of the world. And when you feel like you're behind, you just want to soak everything in, which is great. But also, I hope that you leave this conversation inspired that you don't have to do it all, especially if you haven't gotten started yet with your own animals. Definitely be intentional. And hopefully, you've spent the last little bit researching which animals, what you need to have, what infrastructure they require, how your land is going to respond to it, and how it's shaped, all sorts of different things. And so we've learned, and not that we were in the business of flipping homesteads, but we had 6 acres in Lincoln, California. We jumped into it, did everything you possibly could have imagined there. And then we moved out to East Tennessee. And for the last 3 years, we've been building up our homestead there and brought in all the dairy animals and our ruminants and our poultry and our full garden. And then we moved out to 40 acres and we're restarting the regenerative farm. So now we can build with intention and the intention to grow. One of the things that, because we were in the middle of transition last year, like we didn't really get to go on date nights. Like I think
Mhm.
our relationship, quite frankly, I think it suffered and it all came to a head in December of 2025. So we're now having to really talk through and rebuild a lot of the things that didn't work. Like we really put our relationship aside. Like Tim and I, we love our children and we wouldn't be here if we didn't love them. We've given up a lot so that we could give them the lifestyle that we feel is going to be best to prepare them for the future. But to that point, I think that we've also prioritized our fun time. We try to get together on these Call to Farms podcasts. Truly, we do it for us because it's the real time that we get to connect and keep you updated, but really keep a running diary for our children in terms of what we're thinking, what we're prioritizing as we're raising you.
Yeah.
But yeah, we hope that preservation, growth, homesteading, it's all a lifestyle. It's not a hobby that we can quit. So, because of that, it is so critical for you to look at yourself, your relationship, your family,
Mm.
your work, and see if there's true alignment. Because if there's no alignment in one of the things that you're doing, it's best to just cut that out,
Yeah.
trim that out.
We learned a lot this past year. We should have done a better job, and I'll take that on me to document through video vlogging farm work. But you know what? When you're in it, it's really hard for me to videotape myself while I'm falling in the mud or the cow pies and the daily grind and doing things. And what we've discovered is all the stuff that you see that's picture perfect online, a lot of times they're acting. That's just only for camera. And when you're actually homesteading and actually doing the work every single day, you don't have the time. You don't have that opportunity to document yourself. And I'm saying from personal experience from our own family, but also interacting with members in the community, that there are good friends of ours, like multiple friends within our community who have been homesteading before homesteading was a thing. They were growing their own food, raising animals, and they are now, a lot of them are in their 60s and doing it, and nobody is documenting them. They don't have a YouTube channel. And I'm like, hey, let me take videos of you. No, this is how we do things, and we don't need to get credit being online. And then I'm thinking, how many more families are there? How many more individuals are there in East Tennessee, Western North Carolina, who are doing exactly this? And it's truly amazing.
That's you're talking about our regional area, but
Yeah.
people have been doing this for generations, older generations. This is how they survived. And so it wasn't documented. Other camera crews would come in and now like we learn so much from them. We learn so much by helping them, going there and hanging out with them, spending time with them, how they're eating, how they're harvesting. We're there for it all. And the people here are they're next level.
Yeah.
Like I often say, like where we're from in Silicon Valley, you think that we're so smart. We think that we've got it all figured out with tech, and tech's going to automate everything for us, and it's going to be fantastic. But we pale in comparison to the people who've lived this way. And not just here where we are in our little piece of the world, but when we talk about Asia,
Yes.
and we've done so much research into Asian natural farming, for example. That is the most economical way for us to farm. And so we've been doing that.
Mhm.
And it's also the best way. It's the most optimized way because you're using all of the indigenous microorganisms on your property. And so there's nothing better for your soil health and therefore your gut health if you can double down on that and learn the skills to make ferments from what you have, collect your microorganisms, inoculate them, use them as fertilizer, natural pesticides that you could eat and drink yourself because it's that safe, and then put them into your soil to
Yeah.
then make the health of your plants better and therefore you're better.
And guys, in layman's terms, eat Asian ferments. I love kimchi. It's hard for me to eat regular vegetables, but I can fry up a steak at any time and just throw on some kimchi, just pull it out of the fridge, and there you go. It's great for my gut biome and it's healthy for me. and I love to eat it, and I like it extra spicy too.
And you like it quick too.
Yeah, I'm a lazy chef. I just need to get meat or fish on the grill and then just add kimchi or sauerkraut, some sort of fermented veggie. So then I feel good. She feels good that I'm eating it and it's quick and easy.
Right. And that's one of the things we said. Like, if it's just cabbages, whether it's Napa cabbages or it's regular cabbages, that's really straightforward for us to grow. We just need a field and get it all going. Then we just turn it all into kimchi. And I think I make kimchi at most like once a quarter. And I'll stretch it out to 6 months because we can really knock out all of our vegetable ferments. We have a dedicated fridge. In our old property, we had a whole dedicated shed that we then converted into my fermentation station. I put all of it in there because we had a walled AC unit in there to keep it cool.
Yeah,
So for us, it really is about optimization for our time. Yes, we love slow cooking, but during times when things are busy, it's getting food on the table so we're not tempted to go out, which it's still
right.
hard to do for us anyway. So like where we've positioned ourselves in locale, it's very hard for us to we've removed a lot of the temptations for us to get takeout, to go out to get food.
Yeah,
Uh, it doesn't taste good anymore.
we're in the sticks too. We have to make our own food. It's going to taste way better making our own food.
But I remember when we were in the Bay Area, one of the largest budget items that we had was eating out.
That's right. It adds up quickly.
And so we've saved a lot of money. We are much healthier now than we were 10 years ago because we're now cooking every single one of our meals, breakfast,
Right.
lunch, and dinner.
Well, one of the biggest deterrents of people, I think there are a lot of people that like kimchi. If you can get over the smell at first and you just be adult about it, but it's so healthy for you. And I do believe a lot of people like kimchi or sauerkraut, but there's an intimidation factor of how difficult is it to make it? Is it safe? Is there botulism like in canning foods? But you actually taught a live class and had a really good turnout of the local area women who came and learned, and it was pretty fun. And we even did it at the Homesteaders United event too. We brought all that kimchi over. So,
People loved it.
yeah, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, people loved it. And I labeled it kosher kimchi, and people
Hmm.
bought jars of it because they loved it so much. Men and women and children of all different colors, sizes, ages. And I think it's just a matter of like education. I grew up with ferments from when I was a little girl. We had ferments at every single meal. And then when we got married, I know you didn't eat it for a long time. You're like, nah, smells bad. It's if I'm going to make you eat vegetables, you're going to eat it. Like now you actually choose it.
I
Actually,
actually do like it. And when I'm watching you do it, you don't have to take up all this fridge space. Hooray, I get my fridge back.
that's right. So you want to eat through it too.
Yeah. But no, making it, it sits outside too.
Yeah.
Because of the Asian countries didn't have that luxury back in the day. Hundreds of years, they didn't have refrigerators.
And not only that, we're talking about nutrient density and optimization. And so you could take a regular head of cabbage, you could take any vegetable, but if you cook it down, the second you introduce heat into our meats and our vegetables, the nutrient density and the nutritional value actually drops down significantly. Same thing if you did it with honey, right? So try not to heat up your honey at all. It actually becomes toxic. So if I'm going to optimize for our health and specifically nutrient density, there's nothing better than actually taking its original state, which is a normal cabbage, adding simple ingredients like just salt to it. And I have now completely changed its nutrient density and made it even more nutritious because it's now a probiotic for your gut. There's nothing that you could do to make a cabbage healthier for you. By doing so, we don't introduce heat to it. Same thing with raw dairy, right? One of the things we do is we ferment it. And again, you have kefir, you have yogurt, and quite frankly, our family doesn't go through, we don't actually drink a lot of dairy. We use it a lot in baking and things like that and replacements of things. But the one thing that we do have for breakfast is our long fermented yogurt. And there's so many different things that we're learning about the different types of strains of the cultures. So we're going to be playing a lot more with that when we're in milk this coming season. But in my mind, I'm just looking for things that where we can simplify, fewer ingredients, fewer animals, fewer vegetables, but focusing on fewer meaning variety and double downing. So instead of all the sheep and all the goats and all the cattle, maybe we just go down to, instead of wool sheep, we go down to hair. Instead of the multiple different breeds of dairy cattle, we just stick to the two that we have that are truly A2, the best genetics, right? Just focusing on the best and then raising up their heifers so that in the next 2 years, we're going to regrow our herd with just all A2, A2. Like it's just really focusing on the things that are important and the best. Now that we have learned so much about it.
So bottom line, make it a family decision and just optimize what you are planning to grow or raise this year.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So let's talking about optimizing. You got to bring your house into order. Which means for a lot of us, bring finances to order. And that's always a sensitive topic.
We say this because our last 10 deals have been specifically around debt consolidation. And I say this with encouragement because I know it's a hard conversation. We take these conversations with our clients so seriously.
Yeah.
And we really appreciate them because we know that they're hard conversations. They're conversations that Tim and I, when we were first married, it was hard to talk about finances together. And there are certain topics that's still hard. But for a couple, for a family to get past it and to think about their future planning, what they want to leave behind for their children, these are the necessary conversations to have. They're not easy. We're strangers, but we're so grateful that you guys trust us to manage this for you and that you take our advice so that we can help you pay off your debt if you have equity in your home. And so these are, I think, they're tough, but we want to talk about it.
Yeah, because we work with a lot of families.
We do. And a lot of it, there are some families that jump right away. Like my last client that we closed January 2nd, my very first deal of 2026 closed, and we saved this family over $100,000 in debt. They freed up over $1,700 a month in their cash flow because a lot of that was going into their debt. I think they were paying $2,500 a month to all of their debt. Pretty
Phenomenal.
much. And then at the end of it, I was able to pull out 15,000 extra dollars because we were able to push back with the appraiser to give them a reconsideration of value. The appraiser came back with a lower than we had wanted for the value of the home. So we fought for that, got them even more. And so because of that, they were able to get $15,000 back of cash at closing for them to do a kitchen remodel.
Wow.
And that kitchen remodel is going to gain them at least another $20,000 to $30,000. They're going to at least double it
In equity.
in equity.
Yeah.
So they're going to make up a lot of this. And I was so excited about it because we've just changed their entire family lifeline, their timeline, their future, and they're also a military family as well. So we're just so grateful to be able to help them. But then we also have clients that we've been talking to and friends that we've been talking to where they're very scared and hesitant to make a move.
And they feel suffocated too.
All of our clients actually have said, when I asked them, so how would it feel if you are able to pay off all of your debt? They all said that they could breathe like that, like all of them.
And debt is no joke. We've been there too. We understand debt is not just on that individual, it's on the whole family. It's on them and the spouse too. It affects their relationship. It will affect their intimacy. It just affects everything, the attitude, just perspective on life, on career choices, on family. It just permeates. It goes through everything. So you have to get that debt in order.
And so we have clients who they really struggle with it. Like even as we give them advice, and I think Tim and I care too much. And we've really talked about, oh, we wish we could help more. But the only thing we can do is offer our advice. And so we talked to our friends and clients this time last year, and they were having financial issues, but they also decided against a refinance and a HELOC, which is a home equity line of credit, to tap into their equity to pay off all their debt. Because they didn't make that decision then, they went through this year, sadly, not being able to pay all of their credit cards. And so there were lates on credit cards. And now some of them have gone to collections. So they reached out to us again and we spoke to them, look at their financial profile. And sadly, we can't do a cash out refinance and we can't do a HELOC, which is a home equity line of credit. Credit scores are too low now. And so the only real option to pay off the debt quickly is at least they have the option to sell their home, right? And so you can do that, pay off all of the debt, downsize to a smaller home, and that's totally okay. It may be for a short time, but at least you're not drowning in debt. And I wish that more people could hear that so that you can learn from the fact that while you still have options, and we said this a few episodes ago, while you still have options, take it now. We don't know what the job market's going to look like in 2026. You may think that white collar jobs are going to be replaced and that if you're a blue collar job, it might be easier. But I'll tell you what, we've just fixed our oven this winter. And it was because we were able to use AI to actually diagnose the issue on the specific oven model, what the issue was, because over Thanksgiving and then for the holidays, our oven wouldn't go above 150 degrees.
Yeah, that's right.
And so we looked it up, troubleshooted it, found a piece on Amazon for $30.
Yeah, the starter.
And then what'd you do?
I did it myself, and I don't even consider myself super handy either. I'm learning, and if I can do it, then yeah, that's really cool and also pretty scary that they have that kind of information, but that's great. I mean, that I
Right.
can do it myself. Now, we're not advocating that you have to get a HELOC or you have to refinance. We're here, but by the time that we have clients that reach out to us, it's always, not always, but it's pretty much near they need a lifeline. They need the help right here, right now. And we fully understand that at the root of the problem, it may be their definition of money or how they handle money. And that's something that they're going to have to fix because this is going to be at the end of the day, it's like a band-aid fix in terms of we help you get out so that you don't have to claim bankruptcy, so that you don't lose your house, because that is going to set your family back years, if not decades, if not hundreds of years. And what is that going to have a psychological effect on your children too? So we do provide a solution to help others, and that's what we want to do, to help others when we can. But yes, we do also understand that, and we also want to steer them towards, hey, you need to get some help and learn to get your finances in order.
And so one of the things that we're doing this year to kick off this year
Yeah.
is to talk about how to get your finances in order.
Yes.
And I think it's going to be January 29th, 2026 on a Thursday.
Yep.
We're hosting How You Can Become Your Own Banker,
Yep. That's
essentially.
7 p.m. Eastern time.
And so we'll have a link below. But we are going to have early on this year take advantage of the fact that there's so much energy into all of these resolutions. Yes, but also realistically, it's going to take some time. It's going to take some time for us to have the conversation, to then get the paperwork in order to see which program is best for you, to pay off which debt as well. And because of that, we're going to be talking through other workshops that we're going to have on how you can leverage your HELOC, how to look at line by line item, which debt you should prioritize paying off first. And if you're in a huge rush, go ahead and click below and book some time with us. And if you don't have time, which if you operate like me, you'll book some time
Yeah.
and knock it out. We are, I don't want to say I'm excited, but we are happy and grateful to be in a position to help those out there talk through a lot of your scenarios and your situations as to what should I do? This is my entire layout of what comes in and what goes out. Help me optimize for this. And
Mm.
I love playing in this space. So we just talked about how we love optimizing. And it's like, what are the things that you should prioritize paying off first so that you can maximize your cash flow each month? Imagine what you could do with an extra $500 a month and $800, $1,700. What could you do with that? How would it make you feel? Will you be in a better mental space to make better decisions? Would you be a little bit more bolder? Would you take another job? Would that free up some time so that you can think and create and do things with your family and with your friends and your community? Would it be an extra cow that you could, would you be your first cow that you could bring onto your homestead and have that be a milk cow, but a revenue generator? It's just all these things that, you can actually get more clarity when you can breathe. And
Yeah.
so I just want to at least put a note out for encouragement. If you are just feeling like you're tired, it's exhausting, we hear you and you're not the only one. We'll just tell you that you are not alone.
Yeah.
And I think I know why. It's because a lot of you out there have been exhausted waiting for rates to drop to make a move. But I feel like the rates have dropped slightly enough. It's not making big waves yet.
Mm-mm.
But where we are seeing people be able to benefit is that they have built up so much equity in their home in the last few years. So, yes, though rates are high, still, we're not going to see 3s and 4% probably for a very long time. And people are now realizing that. And because of that, they're okay with 6.5, right? Wherever we land, so that it's not even about rates anymore. It's about maximizing your cash flow. And at the end of the day, that's most important. And so the people who are reaching out to us are people who have generated enough equity, have enough debt that they want to get out of, want to clear up and open up more cash flow for them and their families. And those are the conversations we're having. And you're not alone. If you are in that case, you're not alone.
That's right. At the end of the day, we help families find, finance, and fortify their homes. And that's something that we want to be able to help all of our clients do.
And we just want to encourage you. You don't need to have land to start thinking this way. You don't need perfect finances either. Okay. These are just, we want to give you action steps so you can start looking at what you have around you. Start zeroing out, is what we're calling, because we're going to get started in March. And that's when the new spring equinox starts, as it's the start of the new year. And so for us, it's just look around at what you have. You don't need to have land. Right now, we're not doing any farming, right? Like really doing any active farming. We're not milking right now. We're not raising chickens to harvest. We're going through our pantry. And so, what does your pantry look like?
Mhm.
What do you need it? What do you want it to look like? And start thinking about that. Your finances. You may not have it all in order. We don't have it all in order. And so, how do we get from where we're at today to where we want to be? And those are the conversations to have now with yourself, with your partner, with your family, with advisors, right? We're not financial professional advisors, but we're here to help you in terms of getting out of debt and what to purchase, what to look for. So that when you do get on that piece of land, you already have all these things in order.
Yep. And this podcast has always been about calling people back to the call to farms, to the land, to the responsibility, to stewardship, because 2026, believe it or not, is going to be the year of readiness. We want to thank you for listening in and tuning in to our podcast. If you've enjoyed it, be sure to like it, subscribe, and share it with all your family and friends. It would mean the world to us. We just love how many downloads. We're almost up to 50,000 downloads. This is something to celebrate. And oh, by the way, if you're listening right now and you're a seller and you're looking to sell that property and it's been on the market for a while, guess what? I've got great news for you. I will help market your property and you can still use your listing agent. In fact, I get buyers every single day looking to purchase homes as well as homesteads. So reach out to me if you want more information on that. You've enjoyed this evening going over plans for 2026. We hope that it was a blessing for you and helped inspire you as to what to grow, what to raise this year. I know it has for us, and we would just want to share it with you. And we want to be real. There are things where we can grow even relationship wise with one another, with our family, and things that we just need to focus and dial things in, whether it's relationship wise, finances. We just need to be sure to be intentional about it so that we can take control of 2026. Thank you so much. And until next time, be
Be
healthy.
healthy.